In this presentation, we are going to take a look at references and letters of recommendation. So what is the difference between the two? Well, references come from someone who you worked with or who is willing to communicate with an employer about your strengths and performance at work. This may be a phone conversation or sometimes it's an online questionnaire. A letter of recommendation comes from a past employer, for example, your boss or a work colleague, and it highlights your overall work performance, achievements, and value you brought to the company. Let's talk for a second about references specifically. It's important to ask permission for a reference. Consider who is going to give you a good reference. Clients may assume that they will get a good reference from a past employer when in fact they may not. So be sure to choose them wisely, as the last thing you need is a negative review. Sending a copy of the job posting, an updated resume, and a brief summary of the key skill sets they would like the employer to comment about is extremely helpful. Sometimes it's necessary to remind the employer of certain accomplishments, etc., to ensure that they give you the best reference possible. The rule of thumb is that the reference should all be work related. However, when that's not possible, a personal or character reference can be used. When you get a call about an interview, it's time to update your references. So prepare your reference list and have it ready. Bring the reference list with you to your interview, but do not give the interviewer the list unless you're asked to do so. If they ask you for it, they are interested in considering you. At this point, you should let your reference list know that they may be receiving a call, and this is when you would provide them with the job description, your updated resume, and skill sets as mentioned before. Clients may ask you if you will be a reference. Commonly, in that situation, you need to make a judgment call. If you decide to give a reference, it's important to make sure that the employer understands your role and that you can only comment in a very limited way about the client, and that due to confidentiality, you can only share what the client has agreed upon. For example, punctuality, attendance, etc. When some clients don't have any references, you need to be creative in how you coach them to go about getting references. Again, suggesting character references and brainstorming with them who they could ask, stressing that they have to be willing to give an honest and positive reference. Examples of character references could be teachers, sports coach, family doctors, family friends, or neighbors that they've helped out with, for example, pet sitting. Family members are not generally recommended due to bias or perceived bias. Things to think about for formatting. You should be really clear in how you format your references so that the employer has no problem both identifying your name and contact number at the top and the position you're applying for. So be sure to include the name of the company that the reference is from as well. List your references in the order of importance. Put the most important reference that you'd like the employer to contact first and work backwards from there. Now let's talk a bit about letters of recommendation. The primary candidate to ask for a letter of recommendation from are mostly your immediate supervisor or colleagues. Your supervisor experience of your work may be very different than that of your colleagues who you have been collaborating with. So keep in mind that a letter of recommendation from both might be a good thing to pursue. Sometimes clients might not have an opportunity to ask a boss for this. And in that case, another source for a recommendation might come from any community based projects they may have volunteered for. For example, if you were on a team of people volunteering to help manage an event or a festival, asking the coordinator for a letter might be a great option. Once you've identified who you would like to ask, consider that your boss or colleague is really quite busy and may not have the time to draft something up for you. In this case, they may ask you to write the letter of recommendation and then they can proofread it, edit, and add things as they see fit. This is a common practice. So be sure to tell your clients about this as it will help them to identify what they would like to highlight in their own performance and will also remind their boss of what they have achieved. It is important that the letter be written on the company letterhead if it is coming from your place of employment. Once you have the cover letter, the letter of recommendation, you can do a few things with it. If you have a LinkedIn account, you can upload it as a supplemental resource for prospective employers to read. You can also choose to share it with your application when applying. To read further about letters of recommendation, please read Chapter 14 in your text, The Perfect Resume by Dan Quillen. I hope this presentation has given you a better idea about references and letters of recommendation and how to support clients in their application process.